Welcome to the Big House Breakdown, all things Michigan football, college football show. I am your host, Vic. Get strapping, get ready for a ride that we provide, A2 Mansions. Let's make it happen. All right, so this is how it should be done. No crap-nalysis, just callousness. That means that hardcore football edge that you need to get yourself prepared for Michigan football in the week and ahead. All right, so without further ado, we are going to get into it. Michigan plays Minnesota. Will kick off at 12:05 p.m. this Saturday at the Big House. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, Jenny Taft will be on the sideline. It'll be on Fox. Big noon kickoff. Make sure you're there. Make sure you are throwing your maize and blue comments all over the Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson, Fox broadcast so they know that we are the best fan base in the country, bringing it to you live. If I didn't introduce myself before, I am the Vic. That means the victorious one. Hail to the victors as it goes. And strap in, get ready, because we're going to break college football down for this week happening right now. Let's get to it. All right, college football now. Michigan versus Minnesota. Let's look at a national scheme, as it were. Let's look at the top teams in the nation, rankings-wise. Okay. So we got Texas at 1, Georgia at 2, Ohio State at 3, Alabama 4, Tennessee 5, Ole Miss 6, Miami 7, Oregon 8, Penn State 9, Utah at number 10. Flipping, we're going to go to 11 through 20. Got that rounding it off, we have Missouri at 11, Michigan at 12, up from 18 last week because of the beatdown of USC. I'm going to call it a beatdown because they knew what was coming and couldn't stop it. USC at 13, LSU at 14, Louisville 15, Notre Dame 16, Clemson 17, Iowa State at 18, Illinois at 19, Oklahoma State at 20, and Oklahoma at 21. Now we will go stock up, stock down on the games of the week in our college football now segment with a little bit of banter in between. So let's go Michigan, Minnesota, which is what we're going to talk about, which is what the show is about right now. The importance of that game may be more important to the Big Ten than the national picture. We got OSU, Kansas State. That will, that's a climbers game, 20 versus 23, as it were. That's a climbers game. We have number 12 versus number 15. Louisville should be a little more talented in that one. They seem to be recruiting better as of late, so their skill position players should show out in that one. The big giant of the week, game-wise, number 2 Georgia versus number 4 Alabama. Maybe Alabama could take a page out of Michigan's playbook and ignite that running game behind that big offensive line. And they just may upset the giant in Georgia. And, of course, Penn State at number 9 versus Illinois at number 19. Now, Illinois got some funk with them. They got a defense, and they always play hard-nosed football. So Illinois may surprise. This may be a fourth-quarter affair. It may go down to the wire. Penn State may pull out because of their, pull this one out. Pause. They may pull this one out. They may win this one because of better skill position players. Although I'm not very enamored by, Penn State, Rape State is what I like to call them. I'm not enamored by their skill position So if Illinois takes them to the woodshed and gave them a spanking and won by goal and it led a defensive assault versus Penn State, that would not surprise me. That is your Big House breakdown for college football now. Now let's get into the matchup. So I took your guys' advice, and I'm going to really simplify matchups. I heard a lot of people in the comments and a lot of people in the emails are saying, simplify the matchups, tell us who you prefer per position, run through it, and that's what I intend to do. With a summary at the end. Quarterback position. So you have Alex Orji and you have Brosmer from Minnesota. Now, Brosmer can throw the ball. Alex Orji is still unproven throwing the ball. Brosmer is a little more reckless with it. Alex Orji hasn't shown that he is reckless with it. Alex Orji brings a skill set that makes the defense freeze before they can go or react. They just can't pin their ears back and go see ball, get ball. I'm going to give the edge because Michigan's offense is more dangerous without Alex Orji in there. They have a three-headed running attack. So I'm going to give the quarterback matchup, although limited in passing, to Michigan. Running backs. Minnesota features Taylor, Major, and Mangum in their backfield. Michigan features Mullings, Edwards, and Benjamin Hall in their backfield. Mullings has been nominated for Player of the Week 2 weeks in a row. And even though Minnesota had a good output last week running the ball, over 200 yards rushing, they're not committed to it. They're not willing to die on that hill like Michigan is. And they don't have a game breaker like Donovan Edwards. They don't have somebody that can rip off 40 or 60 in a heartbeat if you give them a lane. So I'm going to give the running back edge to Michigan. Plus, they can catch the ball out of the backfield better than Minnesota. Wide receivers. I'm not going to get too bogged down with wide receivers. I'm going to give the edge to Minnesota as they feature Jackson Spencer and Brockington. Brockington is their big play guy. He has over 100 yards in a game so far. Michigan wide receivers have not proved themselves in that regard. Featured by Morgan, Morris, Frederick Moore, and when healthy, Colston Loveland. Now, if Colston Loveland plays this week, the matchup edge will go to Michigan because he's just a reception machine. He's just a mismatch machine. But as it stands right now, I will give the wide receiver matchup the edge to Minnesota only because of the proven commodity of Brosmer throwing the ball, even though he has a lot of turnovers on the season. So now let's go to O-line. I'm going to give that matchup to Michigan because the right side of Minnesota's O-line is a turnstile. Michigan proved their might and their muscle 3 weeks in a row. They proved it against Fresno. They proved it against Arkansas State. And then the game-winning drive versus USC. That offensive line is gelling. As much as everybody wants to complain about Evan Link, I believe that he's learning a lot and gelling. If we keep cripping in at center to call out protections, I think Michigan will be just fine. Of course, inserting Orji into the offense gives the offensive line an edge because, like I said earlier, he freezes defensive players, getting them to take false steps. So offensive line edge goes to Michigan. So offensively, let's review. Quarterback edge goes to Michigan. Running back edge goes to Michigan. Wide receiver edge goes to Minnesota. Outside of the fact if Colston Loveland was playing, I would call it even at that point. And then O-line edge goes to Michigan because Michigan will turn into that big boa constrictor, and it's a dub for Minnesota. who wants to run the ball as well. They just won't see the field enough. All right, now let's go to D-line. So D-line is a sieve for Minnesota. They've been getting pushed around in the last couple of games, D-line wise. But Michigan's D-line, led by national freaks in Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, first-round draft picks, Jeremiah Stewart, projected, and more. All four of them should go first-round draft picks this year. They're finding their stride. They should be able to pin their ears back, go after the quarterback, and be stout enough with our replacements. Eno Etta, Rajon Benny, Brooks Barr, Cameron Brandt. We should be able to pin our ears back and stop the run enough to get them off the field. Edge goes to Michigan's defensive line. Linebackers, I'm going to say even though if I had an uncanny advantage to give to one side, I would give it to Michigan. I'm still waiting on Jayshon Barham to have a game. This might be his game to go off and just do some super spectacular stuff due to his talent set. I'm going to give the edge. I'm going to say they're even, but I'm going to give the edge, the uncanny edge, the spontaneous edge to Michigan. DBs, I'm going to give the edge to Minnesota only if and only if Will Johnson doesn't play. If Will Johnson plays, then I'm going to call it Michigan because Will Johnson can lock down half the field. Minnesota has had the second best defensive backfield through the couple of first games of the season, only allowing 117 yards per game. They have 7 interceptions, through 4 games. So they're a ball-hawking squad. But Michigan and Will Johnson and Jair Hill have players of the week that were nominated by either College Football Today or the Big Ten Network. They were nominated for defensive backs of the week. So they both have strong, very active secondaries. Jair Hill played a really good game last week. He's starting to come into his own. He's starting to thump his chest a little bit, not be so, antsy about it. So let's review. We got quarterback edge to Michigan. We got running back edge to Michigan. We got wide receiver edge to Minnesota. We have O-line edge to Michigan because of the boa constrictor, that ball control unit. We got D-line edge to Michigan. Linebackers are even. Secondary edge goes to Michigan if Will Johnson and them plays. If not, I'm going to say even because they all have a lot of turnovers on the year. And special teams. This can be the make or break. This can flip the field. If I'm going to give a flip the field advantage and they put Tyler Morris back there, and maybe Samaj Morgan has a breakout run, I'm going to give the special teams edge to Michigan. Plus, our kicker, Zavada, has been perfect on the season. All right, let's jump into the eye test. Eye test. Because the eye in the sky don't lie. It just reveals the truth. Okay, so Minnesota, they're 2-2, right? And Michigan is 3-1. The only blip on Michigan's radar has been Texas. I think Michigan has learned a lot from the Texas game. I think the coaching staff has learned a lot since the Texas game. They made a change. They benched Davis Warren for Orgy. That seems to energize the Michigan team and the Michigan fan base. PJ Fleck's Minnesota team is kind of middling throughout 4 games. They do have a good rushing attack, but against Michigan's D-line, we've taken down better running attacks than Michigan due to our experience in that edge in that way. Michigan's defensive line should feast on the right side of Minnesota's offensive line, run all kinds of stunts and tricks and twists and wide nine pressures to get after Brosmer. And then Michigan offensive line should take advantage of a team that really doesn't do well against the run up front. I believe Minnesota plays a Minnesota plays a multiple 40 front, but so does every team. They'll jump out a 30 to a 40 to a 50 front, depending on what the situations calls for. They'll disguise it. They'll have stand up backers, stand up people in the A gaps, stand up people in the C gaps. I just think up front, Michigan, based on the eye test, Michigan is going to be better up front on both sides of the ball, especially again when Michigan goes jumbo versus Minnesota's defensive line. I think a lot of things that Michigan were trying to run last week with Orgy, as some of those rollouts, those QB waggles, those things will start to hit this week if we integrate a passing game that features the tall Kendrick Bell. If we can get C-Love, Colston Loveland back into the passing unit, those two big targets should be possession receiving targets that should give Alex Orgy, a big number to hit while he's rolling out. Michigan looks like a battle-tested team versus a middling Minnesota team. So I would give the eye test edge to Michigan. I just think they do more when the game is on the line. I just think the first quarter will probably be dominated by Michigan's defensive line. And if Michigan, I'll save that for a hot take. So because the eye in the sky doesn't lie, last year, PJ Fleck played us pretty tough. And if I know PJ Fleck, he will try to take a couple of deep shots in this game like he did last year, trying to take advantage of our corners. Like last year, we had a brand new corner to the Michigan system. He tried to take advantage of that. He even got one deep on Mikey Sanders still, who's now playing for the Washington Commanders, second round pick. So what I would believe is PJ Fleck will have something in his bag of tricks, and bag of tricks don't work if you can't control the LOS, the line of scrimmage. So that needs to happen. I believe Michigan will do that, and I believe Michigan will. The eye test favors the maize and blue. That was the eye test. Now, hot take. Okay, the hot take is predictions and anti-crap-nalysis that you hear from the national media pundits, the talking bobbleheads that like to talk a lot of crap without really, really digging into the stats. All right, and the analysis. Okay. So, like I said before, I think LOS, I think Michigan is stronger on the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. That O-line will win the matchup against a diminutive Minnesota line that doesn't play the run very well, or a Minnesota front that doesn't have good run fits. So you'll see that. I think the defensive line will take advantage of that turnstile on the right side. Mason Graham and Josiah Stewart will prove to be a little bit too much for that group that has a lot of weaknesses. And I think if Will Johnson plays and we're able to utilize our secondary to get turnovers at the aid or the momentum of our pass rush, and we give our offense a short field, our offense can pound that ball in the end zone with Mullings, Orgy, and Edwards and go up by 2 scores. If we go up by 2 scores, it's a dub for Minnesota. I don't think Minnesota has the ability to come back if they're down by 2 scores to Michigan. I think 2 scores and a field goal wins this in any form or fashion. I would like to see them step up the Orji package, give Orji a series or 2 where he's just throwing the ball, where he's trying to hit Samaj Morgan, which is an excellent route runner. He's trying to hit Frederick Moore, which is an excellent route runner. We're taking advantage of the height of a Colston Loveland. If he plays this week, we're taking advantage of the height of a Kendrick Bell, who should be our ex-receiver this week. According to the depth chart, Frederick Moore is behind Kendrick Bell at this point. I don't know when that was officially done or when that was officially or made official. There was no announcement to it. It kind of just happened. I like the little, subterfuge coming from Sharon Moore. And we need to get a contribution from the special teams this week. Please put Tyler Morris at kick returner. He seems to get a lot more. He seems to have us flip the field in our kick return. So if we receive the ball on a punt at the 35, he can get it to the 50 for us or even the 45. If not, take that thing to the house. I think he's got more wheels than people are letting on. I think we should save Samaj Morgan for our, intermediate route running, giving Orji a better target. And I'll tell you what, our passing game will improve if we're doing a couple of things. If we're hitting Donovan Edwards out of the backfield, our passing game will improve. Orji will improve by leaps and bounds. If Orji's able to find Kendrick Bell with his height to be a possession, Armani Toomer-esque type of receiver, our passing game will improve. And if C-Love is able to play this week, Colston Loveland, our passing game will improve. If Orji has 150 yards or more this week, passing the football and 1 score, throwing the ball, maybe in a goal line type of situation, we win the game by 3 scores. And we get to see some of these, bench players gaining some experience, getting in there, doing some special things, because we're going to need them on the depth meter. What I would like to say, I think Amir Hall may get his hands on one this week. Jair Hill may get his hands on one this week, because I do believe that Brosmer, hold on, let me look up the stats real quick. Minnesota quarterback, Brosmer stats. Let me see. Hold on, family. Michigan A2 family. I'll get to it. I want to just see how many interceptions he has on the year. Okay. Yeah, he's got 3 interceptions on the year. His QBR is 44. That's very poor. That's poor. And then when you go up against a crew like our defensive line, that's going to put a lot of pressure on you from the door. And, of course, those exotic looks that Wink Martindale will employ. This will be a great week for Wink Martindale to put those things into play, get the defense nice and warm in those exotic looks, those blitz looks, maybe dropping some of the linemen. Maybe Kenneth Grant can get himself a tip and a pick again. Mason Graham went off last year versus Minnesota. We threw the guard out of the way and hit the running back in the backfield, tackle for a loss. We may see a lot of tackles for a loss this week. This may be a very good statistical week for several people on several sides of the ball. Donovan Edwards may get himself an invite to Indianapolis if they give him some speed and space options this week, if we're creative enough. This is a good test for the chemistry and strategy of the coaching, because this will get them an opportunity to put speed and space, experiment a little bit, increase Orji's passing package as well as his running package. They should start to use Orji in a Charlie Ward, Tommy Frazier-esque, Cam Ward-esque type of way. Go back, look at some of those type of efforts that those guys who were decent passers and what they did to get loose with their running ability. And then as the season matriculated for those guys, they became better passers as a complement to their running game. And that's what we want to eventually make Orji. He's way too talented and way too athletic and has way too much brawn and speed and agility. I'd like to see Orji put a little wiggle in his game, a little shake, a little shimmy shake. So when he's one-on-one with a defender, he wins that matchup either physically or with a little razzle-dazzle, a little jazz shake, a little one cut and go. I know he was really trying not to turn over the ball last week. I think an effort to experiment and put some things on tape for other teams down the line, like a Washington, like a Oregon. We should put some things on tape, even like a Michigan State, who I think will be tougher versus the Buckeyes this week. Tougher than the Buckeyes actually think they're going to be, because Michigan State always seems to have really, really stout front seven. Their front seven really plays people tough. So I don't think that Henderson and Junkins is going to have the running week like they had last week. They may score, but I don't think Junkins is going over 100 this week. Henderson may go over 100, but barely. I think they will win through the air. But I say all of that to say that this is a week that in my hot take, Michigan coaches should strategize and work out some of the experimental things, some of the growth things on offense and defense and special teams. We should have an edge on special teams. We got to get that punt return and a kick return game to give us an edge on special teams. Flip the field. Who are our faster guys? Run some punt coverage units, some kick return units, so we can utilize our fastest players, get the ball in their hands, and help our run control offense flip the field. So you're giving Orji a more of a target. And as far as Orji is concerned, I would do the Donovan Edwards treatment. I remember early in Donovan Edwards' career, Philadelphia Eagles were rolling him out a lot. They were cutting off half the field and giving him like a 3-option go. You know, you could either hit the deep corner, you can hit the underneath, or you can pump fake and run with the ball. I would have had Orji practicing some sort of a pump fake with his big hands, get a defender in the air, and now you can begin to run upfield and be really special with his skill set. Scheme him into some advantageous moments, utilizing the football and his tremendous skill set as an athlete. And I think that's going to be it. I'm going to say Michigan is going to win this game. I'm giving Michigan a win of 27-3. 27-3. If Minnesota scores, I'm giving them one score, 27-10. I think we will get 2 turnovers. I think our running backs will have 2. I think Orji will have a passing touchdown, perhaps to one of the tight ends. And we will see how deep our tight end room is, because if C. Love can't play and if Klein can't play, we're going to have to depend on, let me put the Michigan roster up so I can see our lads. Let's see. Yeah. Give me 1 second, family. I'm looking for the Michigan depth chart so I can talk about who is our deeper tight end unit. Our deeper tight ends are, because Klein was a little banged up and hurt last week. Okay, that's just the depth chart. I hope Klein can come back. I hope Colston Loveland can come back. We will still have the best blocking fullback in the country in Max Bredesen. And we shall. What is the tight end that we need to talk about from a depth perspective that Michigan can go to? Hogan Hansen, right? So we can go to Hogan Hansen. And we can also go to there's Jalen Hoffman, and there's also Zach Marshall. That's what I'm thinking about, Zach Marshall. So Zach Marshall will earn his playing time this week. Marshall is a 235-pound tight end from California. I'm not sure. He says he has a red shirt this year. We may just need him, or we can go to Brandon Mann, who is a backup fullback to Max Bredesen. We can also feature, I think we're going to see a lot of Hogan Hansen, and I think we're going to see a lot of Zach Marshall. You know what I mean? Or either a lot of jumbo package, if that's the case. So once again, Michigan should win pretty handily. I think our defense will more than handle Minnesota. I think PJ Fleck will have a little trick up his sleeve to take advantage of what he's seen on tape from our beloved Maize and Blue. And I do believe that Michigan will be victorious. And I'm hoping that Will Johnson and Colston Loveland can play, but they will be on a pitch count. I believe they will. But that would just give Amir Hall, Ricky Johnson, Wesley Walker, all those great backups that we have, more of an opportunity to get busy. Look out for Brandon Hillman this week, too. The heat-seeking missile that Wink Martindale calls him, right? And that's going to do it for us this week on the Big House Breakdown. Not too much, not too long, not too long-winded. You know what I mean? Let's go, Big Blue Mansion. Let's make it happen. Go Blue.